Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Yana Johnson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Paul Mogger. We warmly welcome the family of Captain Ronald Raiden Bingle, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which he remained true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard their record, which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Captain Ronald Raiden Bingle. Ronald Raiden Bingle was born in Marrickville, New South Wales in 1887 to John and Hessie Bingle. His father was a banker, and by 1892, the family had moved to Melbourne, where John had taken a position with the commercial bank in the city. Little is known of his early upbringing. However, Bingle attended Footscray State School and went on to higher education, gaining qualifications as an engineer. He also served for 18 months with the Victorian Rifles. Following the outbreak of the First World War, Bingle enlisted for service on the 4th of March 1915, joining the newly raised 21st Battalion. He underwent his initial training at Broadmeadows and Seymour. He embarked from Melbourne with his battalion on the 8th of May aboard the troop ship Ulysses, bound for Egypt. During the voyage, he was promoted to corporal, and shortly after arriving in Egypt, to Lance Sergeant. At the beginning of August, Bingle, with his engineering background, was transferred to the 5th Field Company Engineers and was promoted to sergeant the same day. In early September, he was sent to Gallipoli. Bingle would have seen service in the frontline area between Quinns Post and Pope's Hill, and he served there until his unit was withdrawn from Gallipoli in December. In early January, Bingle arrived back in Egypt. He was transferred to the newly raised 4th Pioneer Battalion on 24 March, and he was commissioned with the rank of Second Lieutenant the same day. The 4th Pioneer Battalion sailed to France in early June, and by the end of the month, the battalion was employed in the nursery sector on works such as digging trenches, repairing roads, and filling shell holes. Towards the end of the month, Bingle was promoted to lieutenant. The 4th Pioneers were sent to the Somme area in late July, where they worked around the shattered town of Albert, mainly on road construction tasks. The 4th Pioneers were involved in the 4th Division's efforts at Pozières and later Mouquet Farm. The rest of the year was spent largely on works and construction tasks. On 4 February 1917, Bingle was posted to the 4th Army Infantry School in France. While on the course, he was promoted to captain. He returned to his unit in late March. Bingle was seconded for duty with the Pioneer Training Battalion of Favant in England on 16 May. He remained in England until December, when he returned to France. On rejoining the 4th Pioneers, he was given command of D Company. During the German Spring Offensive in March and April of 1918, the 4th Pioneers took part in several key actions at Hebuterne and Dernancourt. In the lead up to the August offensive, D Company was attached to the 4th Australian Infantry Brigade, and the men were employed as infantry. In the initial advance on 8 August, D Company, advancing behind the infantry near Chapilly, came under German artillery fire. Bingle was hit by shell splinters in the chest and one of his legs. He was immediately carried back to the main dressing station of the 13th Australian Field Ambulance, where his wounds were tended to. His wounds were too severe, and despite best efforts, he died soon afterwards. Bingle was laid to rest in the Falloy Communal Cemetery. He was 30 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Captain Ronald Raiden Bingle, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. at the going down of the sun and in the morning. We will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you a very good evening.